Birth of a nation between 726 and 1249, following the Umayyad Caliphate conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, today's continental Portugal, along with most of modern Spain, was part of al-Andaluz. After defeating the Visigoths in only a few months, the Umayyad Caliphate started expanding rapidly in the peninsula. Beginning in 726, the land that is now Portugal became part of the vast Umayyad Caliphate's empire of Damascus, which stretched from the Indus River in the Indian subcontinent up to the south of France, until its collapse in 750. That year the west of the empire gained its independence under Abd ar-Rahman I, with the establishment of the Emirate of Córdoba. After almost 2 centuries, the emirate became the Caliphate of Córdoba in 929, until its dissolution a century later in 1031 into no less than 23 small kingdoms, called Taifa kingdoms. Most of present-day Portugal fell into the hands of the Taifa of Badajoz of the Aftercid dynasty, and after a short spell of an ephemeral Taifa of Lisbon in 1022, fell under the dominion of the Taifa of Seville of the Abbadids poets. The Taifa period ended with the conquest of the Almoravids who came from Morocco in 1086, winning a decisive victory at the Battle of Sagrajas, followed a century later in 1147, after the second period of Taifa, by the Almohads, also from Marrakesh. Al-Andaluz was divided into different districts called Qura. Garb al-Andalus at its largest was constituted of 10 Quras, each with a distinct capital and governor. The main cities of the period in Portugal were in the southern half of the country: Beja, Silvas, Alcácer do Sal, Santarém and Lisbon. The Muslim population of the region consisted mainly of native Iberian converts to Islam, the so-called Mawalid or Maladi, and Berbers. The Arabs were principally noblemen from Syria and Oman, and though few in numbers, they constituted the elite of the population. The Berbers were originally from the Rif and Atlas mountains.
An Asturian Visigothic noble named Pelagius of Asturias in 718 was elected leader by many of the ousted Visigoth nobles. Pelagius called for the remnant of the Christian Visigothic armies to rebel against the Moors and regroup in the unconquered northern Asturian highlands, better known today as the Cantabrian Mountains, in what is today the small mountain region in northwestern Spain, adjacent to the Bay of Biscay. Pelagius' plan was to use the Cantabrian Mountains as a place of refuge and protection from the invading Moors. He then aimed to regroup the Iberian Peninsula's Christian armies and use the Cantabrian Mountains as a springboard from which to regain their lands. In the process, after defeating the Moors in the Battle of Corvadonga in 722, Pelagius was proclaimed king, thus founding the Christian Kingdom of Asturias and starting the War of Christian Reconquest known in Portuguese as the Reconquista. At the end of the 9th century, the region of Portugal, between the rivers Minho and Douro, was reconquered from the Moors by the nobleman and knight Vimara Perez on the orders of King Alfonso III of Asturias. Finding that the region had previously had 2 major cities, Portugal in the coast and Brayo in the interior, with many towns that were now deserted, he decided to repopulate and rebuild them with Portuguese and Galician refugees and other Christians. Apart from the Arabs from the south, the coastal regions in the north were also attacked by Norman and Viking raiders mainly from 844. The last great invasion, through the Minho River, ended with the defeat of Olaf II Haraldsson in 1014 against the Galician nobility who also stopped further advances into the county of Portugal.
Count Vimara Perez organized the region he had reconquered, and elevated it to the status of county, naming it the County of Portugal after the region's major port city, Portugal or modern Porto. One of the first cities Vimara Perez founded at this time is Guimarães, known today as Guimarães, the birthplace of the Portuguese nation or the cradle city. After annexing the County of Portugal into one of the several counties that made up the Kingdom of Asturias, King Alfonso III of Asturias knighted Vimara Perez, in 868, as the first Count of Portugal, Portugal. The region became known as Portugal, and simultaneously Portugalia, the County of Portugal. Later the Kingdom of Asturias was divided into a number of Christian kingdoms in northern Iberia due to dynastic divisions of inheritance among the king's offspring. With the forced abdication of Alfonso III the Great of Asturias by his sons in 910, the Kingdom of Asturias split into 3 separate kingdoms. The 3 kingdoms were eventually reunited in 924 under the Crown of Leon. In 1093, Alfonso VI of Leon bestowed the county to Henry of Burgundy and married him to his illegitimate daughter, Teresa of Leon, for his role in reconquering the land from Moors. Henry based his newly formed county in Bracca Augusta, modern Braga, capital city of the ancient Roman province, and also previous capital of several kingdoms over the first millennia.
Alphonsine era. On 24 June 1128, the Battle of São Mamede occurred near Guimarães. Afonso Henriques, Count of Portugal, defeated his mother Countess Teresa and her lover Fernão Pérez de Trava, thereby establishing himself as sole leader. Afonso then turned his arms against the Moors in the south.
Afonso's campaigns were successful and, on the 25th of July 1139, he obtained an overwhelming victory in the Battle of Henrique, and straight after was unanimously proclaimed King of Portugal by his soldiers. This is traditionally taken as the occasion when the county of Portugal, as a fief of the Kingdom of Leon, was transformed into the independent Kingdom of Portugal.